Well, welcome everyone. I'm Doug Hicks, Dean of Oxford College, and it's really, really nice to see you all here in the Greer Forum of the Oxford Student Center. We're here for a town hall conversation with President Greg Fenves. Welcome, President Fenves. It's really great to see you.
Great to be here.
We want to also welcome Carmel Fenves, Carmel Martinez Fenves, who's here, and her first visit to Oxford as well. We want to thank Allison Studer, who is this year's chair of the Oxford Staff Organization and also Senior Project Coordinator for Oxford's Center for Teaching and Scholarship and administrator of our Mellon grant with Emory College. So we are delighted that she's going to be moderating questions. I want to say a special welcome to Mayor David Eady. The City of Oxford and Oxford College have been partners for over 180 years. Mayor Eady has only been mayor for part of those 180 years, but we're glad you're here as well to give a welcome to Emory's president. We are going to have just a conversation today. Students, faculty, and staff submitted questions for President Fenves that he will address and we can discuss. I want to say welcome to our students who are all over the world, all over the country today, and we really appreciate you tuning in. And faculty and staff who are on campus and beyond, we would not be here open without all of your commitment. So just look forward to the conversation. Welcome, President Fenves.
Okay, well, thank you, Dean Hicks. It's great to be here. It's great to actually see people in person, not on a Zoom screen. How many here had ever heard of Zoom before January? One or two. Okay, it was all new to me, and but as I think back about what's happened since March when Emory went all online and most other universities, what really amazes me is the flexibility and the resilience of everybody here. You want to get your education, the faculty want to teach, the staff, who are so many of them are really at the front lines of keeping Emory running, keeping Oxford College running. Everybody is working so hard to be able to continue to do what we're doing, and it's a lot of changes, right? I mean, I don't like this. It's really hard to communicate. It's really hard to see people. It's really hard to make connections, especially for me. Carmel and I have been in Atlanta for exactly a month, and meeting new people. Learning about a new university, but we're trying to get out as much as we can, and so one of the first things we wanted to do once classes began is to come out here to Oxford College, and we drove in this morning, parked the car. We parked in the wrong lot because we can't read maps, and we're wandering around campus looking for your offices in
Seney Hall.
Seney Hall. So we had to stop and ask directions to Seney Hall, but. Walking around this beautiful campus on the quad, I told Carmel, I wish I was in college again. You all who study here and work here are so lucky to be in this beautiful academic setting. It's traditional, but it's forward-looking. And as I talk with the leaders like Dean Hicks, the faculty here, we met a little bit earlier today. Meeting with some of the students here, you are experiencing college education at its best. Traditional in the liberal arts tradition and forward-looking to preparing you for the rest of your lives. You're in college for a couple of years, 4 years. We don't have you for very long. And we want you to be prepared for a life that will be many, many decades past your graduation. So what do you need to know? What do you need to learn? What do you need to experience so that you understand yourself, you understand who you are, who we are as a people, you understand society, for all the things that go well and all the problems that we have. You understand our history, but you also think about what your goals are, discover yourself, and be able to use that as a launch pad for a happy life, a successful life, a fulfilling life, no matter what type of career you pursue. Because for the students here, You'll be doing careers in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years that we don't even know about. But the education that you're getting here at Oxford College, beginning at Oxford College and going on to Emory, will prepare you for whatever will come by asking the right questions, learning how to think, learning how to write and to communicate, to analyze problems, to think creatively, and to be innovative. And that's truly what the long shelf life of education should be. It's not this topic or that course. It's how do you prepare yourself for the future, because we don't know what's going to come. And we're living it today now. Who knew we were going to be here? But we're living it today, and we're doing pretty well, if you ask me. And that's a credit to everybody that's in this room and everybody that's following on Zoom. So it's just a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thanks a lot. Well, let's go to the questions. Allison.
All right, thank you. I'm so glad that I get to be here with you two today. And to kick us off, you've already started to talk about some of the President members. And thinking of your first impressions of Oxford, Dean Hicks, you might be able to speak to this as well, but what role do you feel Oxford can play in an unparalleled Emory undergraduate experience?
Well, I was talking with that with some of the students, and that is, as you're thinking about what you want out of college to prepare you for the future, you have some choices, and one of the choices is to be a truly liberal arts experience at a residential college. And a few of the students that Carmel and I were talking to earlier today, how lucky you are to be able to live and learn in this community when we're all here, to know all the students, to see a very diverse students with very diverse backgrounds of races and ethnicities, nationalities. That's part of the learning experience in a very focused way. So it's just I can see how it is a unique experience. It's probably not for every student, but for the students who want that and can benefit it and fully embrace it when they're here, it is an unparalleled education.
Thank you. Dean Hicks,
So you're the dean. What's your answer to the question?
Well, I've talked a lot about Oxford having the entire world here in the city of Oxford and on the campus of Oxford College. And this semester, we're living that in a different way. We have Oxford College in the entire world, in parents' bedrooms, and well, parents' basements anyway, in childhood bedrooms. We've got students everywhere, including on campus. And I think that cosmopolitan nature of our little campus is being lived out across the country and across the world. We've never talked more about partnership with our partners in Atlanta, Emory College, Goizueta Business School, and the Nell Hodgson Woodruff School of Nursing than we have this semester. We have more cross-listed courses than we've ever had, and those cross-listings and cross-registrations go both directions, and we're excited about that. So you know that all of our official literature talks about the best of both worlds, the small school campus with the residential community where people know each other, and the resources of a research university. That's never been more true than this semester. I'm so grateful for our public health experts, for the capacity to know what we're doing. And I'm really, really grateful to see students online and in person this semester. For me, the main words this semester are perseverance, resilience, and resolve. And those play to Oxford's strengths of community and inclusivity. And we're given new definitions to those this semester.
All right. We've talked about Oxford and Emory's diversity. How do you think in this climate that we're living in, where there's so much tension, how do you think Emory can or should express itself on racial injustice and have an influence on this important issue?
Okay, well, we are living in a historical moment. Carmel and I may be the oldest people here. I can't quite see everybody here, but you know, if we look at what's happened in this country over the past 60 years, this is the most important historical moment in this country since the civil rights movement began in Atlanta in the late 1950s through the 1960s. And why do I say that? It is the long-standing issues, these are not new issues, the long-standing issues of racial justice and equity are coming to the general public. Many of you know it and have experienced the inequities and the injustices, but it's coming to the general public in a very profound way. And so this is a moment that we need to use to make more progress, needed progress on justice and equity. Now, what does that mean at Emory University? Well, I'm new here, and as I started looking at Emory, having had some experience at the University of Texas, a university founded after the Civil War, but soon after the state joined the Union after the Confederacy, and understanding the historical issues that have been long-standing at one university, thinking about Emory, a university founded here in Oxford before the Civil War, when slavery was legal, was in the Constitution, having gone through the Civil War, having gone through Reconstruction, having gone Emancipation, Reconstruction, and then in nearly a century of segregation, legally mandated segregation, to the civil rights movement, I was asking the questions, what is the history of Emory? Got some answers, but not very much answers. And when the tragic murder of George Floyd occurred at the end of May, and that raised this consciousness of the nation, I was just starting to get involved in Emory after stepping down as president of the University of Texas. And there were some very important issues that we need to address as a university, and we can talk about them some more, but one of them is right here at Oxford. What is our history, and how do we understand our history? How do we recognize the history of this university and the role of enslaved people in the founding of the university, the construction of buildings that are right here now that some of you take classes in? As you walk around the campus, how do we make that part of the education of students here now and into the future? So we've had a tour today. Dean Hicks's great tour guide to understand, think about the true history. But we have scholars here who study history, who interpret history. And we're going to have launched a process where we're going to be looking at this in depth, and specifically the question of how do we memorialize our history? How do we make it clear to everyone that this university was founded in the era of slavery? It was enabled the functioning and the survival of the university to get us here today. And we have to have a proper part of our education, but remembrance and memorial of it, so that every generation of students understands that. Now, there are a number of other issues that we're working on. I'd be glad to talk about those in more detail, but being here, one of the reasons I wanted to get to Oxford so soon in my tenure as president of Emory University is to see firsthand the history and the manifestation of it today.
That's great. I'd just add, we went into Phi Gamma Hall, built in 1851, and we just renovated it. The Phi Gamma Society, which was a student organizational literary and debate society, has as their motto, and it's on the front wall as you go into beautiful Phi Gamma Hall, Scientia Religio Libertatis Custodes, or something like that. Knowledge and religion, guardians of liberty. And there's a certain paradox with that liberty and this organization that built this beautiful building that we still use in 1851. And it was probably almost a certainty that enslaved laborers constructed that building that has knowledge and religion, guardians of liberty, as its motto. So that's the challenge we have of celebrating student learning and education amid a history that started in slavery and that continues to be part of an American society of racial injustice. And so how do we work together? I'm also so heartened by the student the inclusivity we have, the student-reported sense of mutual respect and inclusivity on this campus, and want to think about partnering with you all at Oxford and Emory overall on being the best institution we can be, naming our history and looking forward together to being a real leader in equity and in justice.
And I think we're all excited to take a part in that plan. As you make decisions for Emory University, how will Oxford be a part of its plan? With its distinct culture, distance from Atlanta, challenges, and the opportunities that are here at Oxford.
Well, the most important thing is Dean Hicks will never let me forget those things. He has my ear, but more seriously, I think this is a tremendous asset for Emory University. And we were talking earlier today about how we can go out around Georgia, around the country, around the world, and we give students options. And Dean Hicks said it right, to get a small college liberal arts education at a residential setting and the advantage of a major research university. There is no other university in the United States that gives students that option. And it's from brief time I've been here, understanding the history of Oxford College to enhance that opportunity. The facilities you have, these beautiful facilities that have been either built or restored or renovated over the past, say, about 15 years. That's a testament to the investment that Emory has made in the importance of Oxford College. I think there's still some work to do. One of the things I hear from students is that transition from Oxford to Emory. How do we make that transition better? That transition should be part of the value. And so that's something that I think we need to identify and how we work to improve that. Yeah, Doug, what's your...
I second what the president said, and including the fact that Goizueta and nursing and Emory College faculty should increasingly see you all as their students, not their future students, but their students, just as we continue as the faculty of Oxford to see you all as our students for 4 years. And so that transition and overlap is something we can continue to improve. And we add value to the Atlanta campus, and our Atlanta colleagues add so much value to your education. So there's a lot of great stuff we can do there. And this era of Zoom, and believe me, I'm making lemonade out of lemons here. That's true. But this era of Zoom opens up a set of opportunities for us that we can continue to exploit. Unless you enjoy driving on I-20, we can continue to exploit virtual resources to get a lot of those connections built virtually and then reinforce them in person.
Yeah, just one follow-up. When I met with some of the students earlier, one of the students said, almost an offhand comment, but it was very important, said, well, because the classes are online, I was able to take a course in Atlanta that I normally wouldn't have been able to. Mm-hmm. So as you were saying, that's a revelation. Right? Mm-hmm. So this will be over someday. It's not going to be next week. It's probably not going to be this semester, but it'll be over someday. But let's not go back to just the normal ways we were doing things. Let's learn from this experience how we can teach differently and better. How we can learn, how we can collaborate, and to the point you just mentioned, how can we bring the two campuses closer together academically and socially.
That'll be great. We're all being very safe here. We're socially distanced, we're masked, but what would be the tipping point in the data? And you may not have this information right now, but what would be the tipping point in the data of cases of coronavirus that would cancel in-person classes? We see other universities having to shut down quickly. What would that look like? What would the canceling process be?
Yeah, so I get asked this question a lot. What's the tipping point? And the answer is there's no one factor. We just announced today at the webinar earlier a dashboard that's available to everybody here. It should be live now. It'll certainly be live by tomorrow. showing the factors that we're looking at and that you should see. Number of students who are tested, number who are positive, number of faculty and staff who are tested, number of positive. What are the trends in the Atlanta area? What are the trends in DeKalb County, in Newton County? What is the hospital utilization in terms of emergency rooms, in terms of critical care facilities? We have information on testing and testing capacity, and that's been a real problem in this country. We're working really hard at Emory so that we can do more testing. And as you know, we started a whole new series of tests over the weekend, and we're going to continue those. So there is going to be no one factor. The key is, though, can we control the transmission? Can we control the transmission? Is the transmission at a level where it's either going down or staying steady? And so it's really not going to be any one number. It's, I'll use a math term, what the rate is, right? And can we keep the rate from increasing and becoming uncontrolled? And what you're hearing at other universities is, and seeing, is what happens when they can't control it. With the decisions that we've made at Emory, starting in July, to not have very many students here. We have about a quarter of our undergraduate students, about 13% of all of our students, undergraduate, graduate, and professional, in campus residence. Our decisions on how we're going to conduct ourselves with masks and social distancing, being very careful about the cleaning, and thanks to all the facilities crew and staff who do the cleaning, and by what we do, because this disease is controllable. What is a virus? It's a bunch of proteins. It doesn't have any intelligence. It doesn't want to get any one of you sick. It doesn't know what it's doing. It can only spread by the actions that we take. And so we can't control it because we're a lot smarter than a bunch of proteins in a coronavirus. And so that's what the keys are about what we're going to be watching. So it's not going to be any one number. It's going to be the factors that most of them you see on the dashboard that we'll be monitoring as you can see them day to day.
You all have done awesome so far. I'm happy to say that as of yesterday evening, of the 397 initial tests of students, there were 0 positives. And as of yesterday, of 240 retests, there were 0 positives. We don't doubt that there is COVID among us at some level, but those are really good signs that we are controlling the spread at this point. And as the webinar, as all the participants emphasized last hour, we need to stay vigilant and go from the strength to continued strength. But that's to do what we're doing now and to try to find ways to ease up and have more social gatherings outside, distance, masks, so that we all stay well and stay connected, but to keep doing what we're doing to keep those numbers down. And I want to say thank you for the work that you're doing, students, faculty, and staff, to get us this far, this well.
Thank you. With the work that you've mentioned that all the faculty and staff and students are doing to keep everyone safe, do you see anything or think of anything that students can do to assure a return to campus in the spring for other first-year students and sophomores?
You want to start out? We'll switch it up here.
It's our hope. It's our hope to have the student body back. And we're not just hoping against hope. We're working every day to find the best way to stay on top of it, to keep the spread down. And the very best thing we can do to have an increased density in the spring is to keep being effective in the fall, to keep people well, to inspire confidence in the leadership and in our healthcare advisors that we're doing well. And then we need to know that the supply chain is good and the other indicators that the president mentioned are strong. So I don't think we can have a vaccine-dependent return for the spring. It will have to be how we contain it and manage it in order to do it. And I'm glad, and I haven't said this to you personally, I'm glad we haven't forced a decision, rushed to make a decision, because the more time we're able to log, doing things well, the better chance I think we have of being a little more assertive. But time will tell, and we just need to stay on it.
No, that's exactly right. So January is, what, 4 months away, a little over 4 months away. If you think about where we were 4 months ago, in April, could we have in April made decisions about where we've ended up today? And the answer is no. The answer is no. And as Doug said, we're not going to make a decision until we're ready to make a decision, and that's going to depend on all the information that we've discussed. There won't be a vaccine that will be ready by January. That's going to be true. But as we start to think 4 months, 6 months ahead, I've convened a committee, a high-level advisory committee to me on COVID, continuing COVID response. Because another one of the advantages of Emory is Emory Healthcare, the Rollins School of Public Health, and School of Medicine with particular focus on infectious disease. There is no other university that has the experts that Emory University has. So we have this very informed, very powerful expert panel that's helping us think through, as they are doing their work in public health and in medicine, what factors we should be looking at, what factors are under our control, what are we doing now, what can we be doing better in the future. And that will all go into a decision about the spring semester.
Thank you. How do international students factor into the university's planning? Can you ensure that international students will not be at any time zone disadvantages for final exams if exams are synchronous but take place during winter break when everybody is at home?
You want to start on that one?
Sure. I mean, we can't change the fact that there are 24 time zones in the world. So there will be challenges, just like with everything else related to COVID. There's no easy solution or perfect solution. We have tried to schedule courses at the beginning of the day and the end of the day to help students who are 12 time zones away or 13 time zones away or 8.5 time zones away, I think 9.5, sorry, for India. So we have students in California who are getting up at 5 a.m. for some of those courses. We have some students in China who are getting up at 3:30 in the morning to take classes. They've literally flipped day and night in order to continue with their studies. That is resolve. That is commitment. So we will continue to do the best we can to reduce those challenges that students have. We have talked about methods of assessment that are not synchronous. We've talked about other ways of assessment that are not about an active test, but are assigned projects, papers, and so forth. And yet, we also know that faculty drive the content and the processing their courses. And that academic freedom of faculty is one of the principal bedrock statements that we stand upon for our educational system. So faculty need to decide what's best for their learning objectives of the students. So I would say that it is absolutely top of mind for every single faculty member how to cross all digital divides, how to create a playing field, not only that's level, but that is fertile for learning for all people. And that will look different course by course, but it will happen. And for you students who are tuning in or who are tuning in here in person as well, please talk with your faculty members about your concerns, about how they can do it, because we are all creating this as we move along, and we're all learning, so that your input will really matter even on something like that.
International students are so important to what we do. Emory wants to prepare every student here to be successful in a global environment, in an interconnected world. And so one of the reasons when we made the decisions in July of not bringing back all students, but having to ask ourselves the question, well, which students do we bring back? International students were included. It's so because We want the international students here. We recognize the time zone challenges for those students who aren't able to travel. But we know there are factors that aren't under our control in terms of the ability of international students to travel to campus. We were talking about earlier, as we think about going forward to the spring semester, we want to be as flexible as we can of being able to accommodate international students at Emory when they can get here for whatever we end up in the spring semester.
Great. In these times, everyone keeps referring to the new normal and even trying to find phrases so they don't have to say new normal. How do you see colleges functioning in the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, okay. Well, that's a really significant question, and I'll apologize if I'm doing too many webinars and Zoom things if you heard me say this, but I'm going to say it anyway because I think it's an apt metaphor. So I think about photographs I've seen during World War II, photographs of Franklin Roosevelt and Winston Churchill meeting in the depths of World War II. The war had not been won. The Allies had not won. They were far from victory. But Churchill and Roosevelt were meeting not about war strategy, but what happens after the war was won. How should we be working together? How should we be organized to never repeat that war again? And I use that metaphor because we're in the middle of, I'm not going to call it a war, but we're in the middle of a massive change. It will be over at some point. But let's start to think about what the world will look like when the pandemic is over. Let's not go back to the old normal, because the old normal had a lot of problems. Let's try to use this as an opportunity to fix some of those problems. So whether it's how students at Oxford and Emory can take the same course, how we use technology effectively for improving learning, how we can engage in different ways, both in person, but also using technology, how we can think about making Emory education accessible to people who can't travel to Oxford, Georgia, or Atlanta, Georgia. So we'll get through this next couple of weeks, and we've got to monitor everything that we've talked about. But I want everybody at Emory, especially with the faculty and the leadership of the university, to start thinking about not what the new reality is right now, but what new normal do we really want to have when this is over.
You could say the whole world is experiencing a kind of earthquake at this moment. How will your academic and professional expertise in earthquake engineering help you make decisions for Emory?
I don't know if I can answer that question. I'm an engineer. My field was earthquake engineering, which had a fascinating combination of engineering, technology, but also society. So it essentially came down to the question of a public health question. Who gets to be safe in a natural hazard? Right, where many parts of the world are exposed to natural hazards. You're along the Gulf Coast, you're exposed to hurricanes, but many parts of the world are exposed to earthquakes. And so it wasn't just an engineering question, which I found fascinating. It was also some very significant societal questions about equity of who gets to be safe. And I've traveled when I was younger, and Carmel still complains I traveled too much. But have been around the world and seen the devastating effects of earthquakes. And wealthy communities do much better in earthquakes than poor communities. And so those are some of the issues that I worked with. But how does it help me here? It probably doesn't. It's probably the real answer. But if I think about it, my education and my work is really identifying problems and then thinking about systematic ways to solve those problems. And I hope that's the way I've approached leadership of universities is how do we make it better? and what are the systematic factors and the considerations organizationally in terms of expertise, in terms of new ideas, in terms of innovation, and how do we put it together so it all works as a system. So I'd say systematic thinking is probably the most important aspect that I've drawn from my career in leadership of universities.
That's great. I wasn't sure how you were going to tackle that question. This comes from a student who plans to be an English major, and it ties back into your background. As someone who chose science and engineering for your career, how do you view the value of a liberal arts education?
Liberal arts educations liberal arts are the core of education in the United States. Even engineers take liberal arts courses. So, but I also grew up in a family that was very oriented towards reading, towards literature, to art. I have a brother, a couple years younger than me, who's a professor of literature and philosophy. So somehow we grew up in the same household. He became a professor of literature and philosophy, and I became a professor of engineering. But that was kind of the milieu that we grew up in. And I've always, throughout my life, tried to be a broad reader and of literature, of history. Carmel and I have been around to a lot of places, and we really appreciate the art and the performances in different parts of the world that we've had the fortune to be in, and that's just such an enriching part of life. And that's a core aspect of liberal arts education, is to be enriched and understand history, understand culture, understand art, because that all weaves together into a well-educated person who understands their self and understands the society that they live in.
Emory has an undefeated football team.
Has what?
An undefeated football team, as in, we don't have a football team. Will you continue to be a Longhorns fan? Or will you root for the Cornell Big Red or the UC Berkeley Golden Bears?
The hardest football game I had to go to was when Texas played Berkeley. So that was hard. No, seriously. I love college football. I'm just very glad I don't have to make decisions about college football. And so somebody asked me about it at Emory, and I said, "Well, I'm president. Emory will not have a football team. It will remain undefeated."
Thank you. You've had a busy month, I imagine, moving and getting acclimated to Atlanta and Emory. Do you have any hobbies? Have you had any time to yourself?
Carmel, have we had any time to ourselves? Yeah. Unpacking boxes is my hobby right now. I get asked this question: what do I do when I'm not working? And the answer is I'm always working. I mean, my hobby is just thinking and working. I like to read a lot, so my relaxation is reading, spending time with our kids when we can. We have 2 adult daughters. We have a granddaughter. Looking forward to having a grandson in a couple months. So just spending time with my family when I can is my hobby.
Congratulations on the growing family. You mentioned reading. Are you reading anything right now for pleasure that you enjoy?
So we've been, unfortunately, no. So we have been so busy over the past month with the move. I try to keep up with the news. So there are some regular news outlets. I get my news from Twitter, unfortunately. So I use that to follow up. But reading, keeping up with magazines and newspapers. Some of you are too young to know what a newspaper is, but it's a very broadband communication mechanism. You can open up a page and see lots of information at once. And I grew up in a family that their idea of a Sunday morning was reading 3 newspapers. So I've had that habit for a long time. And so mostly I'm just trying to keep up with everything that's happening in the world right now.
How do you plan to stay in touch with our student voices? How can they contact you?
Email president@emory.edu, Twitter I don't have enough Twitter followers from Emory, so you have to sign up for me at Greg Fenves or Instagram, although I'm still not a big fan of Instagram. I'm Greg Fenves at Instagram, so I'll get the notification when you tag me, and I may respond, I may not respond, but I will certainly see it. But outside of technology, one of the things I want to do is be able to meet with students, and I've started meeting with the student leaders lately. I don't know if anybody saw the webinar with Lori and the student government president. I mean, she's just fantastic, and so I like to meet with students as much as I can. We walk across campus. So far, we've done it fairly regularly. Stop and talk with students. We have been meeting with. Been a couple of weeks now, but meeting with the Coalition of Black Organizations and Clubs on the racial justice issues. So I do want to be engaged with students.
That's great. Dean Hicks, do you have a preferred method for student voices to get in touch with you as well?
Sure. Email me at oxforddean@emory.edu. That would be one great way. I'm also going to ask Dean Moon to help me set up a Zoom call with students who are remote, and hopefully we can meet in person with a group of students who are on campus. And I want to do those things in the next 10 days or so I can hear how your experience is going so far. We've already adapted some of our practices and some of the protocols. We've increased the hours, and we're going to announce some more increased hours for this building. We put up more tents and my favorite Adirondack chairs because of student responses. So please, oxforddean@emory.edu is the best way, and we'll do some meetings as well.
President Fenves, our audience would like to know, who are the most important mentors in your life?
Who've been the most important mentors? Well, when I was a student, some great faculty that I kept in touch with, or in some cases worked with for decades afterwards. But probably the biggest influence on me was my father. He's now how old is that? 89. He's now 89, and smartest person I've ever known, and he can see something or hear something or learn about something, and then just in one or two sentences, just capture the essence of it. And his life story is such a dramatic one, and so, but he's such a very humble, modest person. So he's probably been the biggest influence on my life.
That's wonderful. As we wrap up our time together, can you share with us what you want your legacy at Emory to be?
Oh, that's sort of like the vision question. You know, I can't answer that question because first of all, it's too soon. Second of all, I think I can be most effective as president of Emory to work with you all of how we make Emory better. And if that turns into a legacy, that's going to be somebody else to assess whether that's a legacy or not. I try not to think about that because I think that can take you in the wrong direction because you may not listen as much. You may not have an open mind about new ways of doing things. And so I want to focus on what we need to do to make Emory better. And I'll let others figure out if there was a legacy there and what it is.
That's great.
For me, I believe deeply in the mission of Oxford College as a great liberal arts college that prepares people in their first 2 years. So I embrace the mission, so then my vision becomes to move it along and to make us align better with that mission. So for me, so far that's meant recruiting broad and wide for the best student body that we could bring together, which I define as inclusive, diverse, and bright. And we've moved that profile forward. We've also made it more accessible. even as tuitions have risen nationally and at Oxford, I want to continue to drive financial aid and raising money to support affordability and accessibility for our students. We've moved the faculty towards a lower student-faculty ratio, which I don't worship as an idol, but I do see it as one important way to symbolize and to reflect that ability for faculty to be mentors for students. And I think we need to continue to steward the campus and make sure that it, for me, it's an investment every time we develop a new space on campus for the student experience. So those are some things really about making Oxford the best it can be, which I'll just end and send it back to the president. I think the best that Oxford can be means continuing to tie those great connections to Atlanta, because no one comes to Oxford College for a 2-year education. You're all coming for 4 years and beyond. And so we've got to make sure that that train runs at least 4 years and really for a lifetime of learning and flourishing.
That's a great summary. Thank you.
Those are the questions that we have this afternoon.
Okay. All right. Well, let me just say thank you for having me here today. As I started out by saying, it's wonderful to actually see you here instead of on a Zoom screen. I've just been gratified to learn about Oxford and especially to meet with the students here and hear from you about your education at Oxford, especially in these unique times that we're going through. So thank you very much for having me.
Well, thank you. And we have a few gifts for you that we'd like you to pull out of that bag. Sure. One comes from the Oxford Board of Counselors and the Oxford College Alumni Board, and that's not it, so I'll come back to that.
Okay.
This is a canvas, and you'll see, Greg, that it matches the mural on the back wall.
Oh, I see.
And it's called Expansion.
Okay.
It was done by an Emory University graduate, Peter Ferrari, and you'll notice it's signed by the author. And the abstract art has as its base the Oxford Quad. So you see the pathways on there.
Oh, yeah, I see it.
And it's about expansion of knowledge and expansion of opportunity. And the bright colors are supposed to reflect the diverse experiences that you can have at Oxford. So we hope you'll have that proudly in your
we'll
office.
hang it either at Lowwater or Convocation Hall.
Wonderful. And the other is the book that is written by our own Dean of Campus Life and unofficial Oxford College historian, Joe Moon, and it's presented to you. It's called An Uncommon Place, Oxford College of Emory University. It's presented to you by the Oxford College Board of Counselors and the Alumni Board, and they're just proud to welcome you and say, thank you for thinking of Oxford so early in your tenure, and we look forward to partnership.
Right.
So
I'll definitely read it. All right, thank you.
Please join me in thanking President Fenves for being with us.
Thank you. Thank you.